Hello everyone and welcome to another Unit Forward moving picture. I'm Alex, editor of unitforward.com, and today I'm going to be taking a look at Campaign Book Zverograd, which was the first campaign book to be published for Dust Warfare. So let's get straight into it. So as you can see, the campaign books are soft cover, not hardcover like the rulebook is, the core rulebook. And on the back, you see there's just some like fluff and stuff for the book. Fight for the motherland. And basically, this book introduces Zveregrad, the city of Zveregrad in Russia, and it also introduces the SSU, the Sino-Soviet Union, into the game. And this actually, when this book came out, this actually happened for both tactics and warfare, because the SSU were new for both games at the time when this book came out in July 2012. So let's have a look inside. You can see just Zveregrad, Campaign Book Zverograd, Dust Warfare. You've also got the credits as usual for every book and a table of contents. So let's have a look and see what's in this book. You have, there's a bit of glare on the camera. You can see there's the introduction. It actually introduces campaign books, like full stop as well. What are campaign books all about? The history of the SSU and the SSU timeline. So it's a bit like the beginning of the campaign of the core rulebook, I should say, where everything's introduced, the fluff is introduced. How did the SSU become the SSU? What are they all about? And then in Chapter 1, new rules. Because with the SSU and the introduction of the SSU, you also have aircraft. Aircraft are being introduced aircraft were introduced into the game with this book. So you can see there are aircraft miniatures, like introduction to aircraft miniatures, aircraft rules, movement, actions, special abilities, 3-player scenarios as well. This book kind of has a page on how to play a 3-player scenario in Dust Warfare. And then you have reinforcements in Chapter 2, which just basically introduces the walker the walkers that both the Axis and the Allies got in this book. And then Chapter 3 is all about the SSU, which kind of introduces the structure of the SSU, the army list, weapons, platoons, walkers, heroes, all that kind of stuff. So let's dive in and have a look. You can see there's just the introduction, introduction to campaign books, the history of the SSU, how they got involved in the weird World War II that Dust is set in. Some artwork there. And it just carries on into 1943, 1944, 1945, 46, and 1947, which is where we are now, currently in the Dust timeline. And there's a bit of, fluff, a little story there, just to set the tone. Some nice sketch work there of an SSU soldier. And then you have the usual great, well, I call it artwork. It's more like photos of a battle taking place. And then Chapter 1 introduces the additional rules for the game, which are introduced with this book, most notably aircraft. So it introduces aircraft minis, what they're made up of, aircraft altitude, because aircraft can fly high and low in this game, aircraft activation as well, aircraft movement, compulsory move action for aircraft combat, and also it introduces the aircraft damage table, which is like the vehicle damage table, in that when an aircraft is damaged, you roll on this table to see basically what happens to it. Does anything happen to it? And lots of things can happen to it. from like, you know, damage fire control, damage weapon, it can be force low, there can be a hull breach, its ammo can explode, all kinds of funky stuff can happen to an aircraft. Ooh, there's quite a bit of glare on the book today. How to attack an aircraft, how to damage an aircraft, rear armor, carry capacity, all that kind of stuff. And then it introduces new special abilities like air cavalry, airlift, probably the most important one in the book, which is Commissar. One of the cool things a Commissar can do is it can join two identical units together as one big unit, which is something you'll see quite often from SSU lists. You'll just see a blob of men just going forwards when a particular unit is activated. Okay, next, this is just more abilities. A couple of more, shaking the camera. A couple of more important abilities, which are Fighting Spirit and Pilot. And then you've got new special weapon abilities, most notably bombs. And here's the page for 3-player scenarios. Which is just one page. It's not much. There's not much to it. It just introduces how to play a 3-player scenario, which you can do as of this book. And then you've got some scenarios: At All Costs, Fortress Impossible, Standoff, Desperate Alliance, Breaking Point, and then goes into some more fluff, setting the tone. More inspirational imagery. And then we go into Chapter 2, Reinforcements, which is a look at the new walkers that the Allies and Axis got, because this book isn't all about the SSU. It is sort of kind of like an SSU codex, but not quite. The Allies and Axis do get a couple of units in this book, as they do in pretty much all the campaign books. Well, there's only 2 so far, but you know, all the campaign books so far. So yeah, the Allies get the M3 series medium combat walker, the amphibious walker, whereas the that's the Allies. The Axis get the Schwer Panzer Kampfwaffe 3, which I actually did an unboxing video on, which you'll find on this channel. So that's that. The Flammlooter and the Wotan. So yeah, that's the Axis and Allies units, and then we go into Chapter 3, the SSU, which is basically, it's like the Axis and Allies chapters in the core rulebook. It basically tells you about, you know, what the SSU are all about, you know, what an SSU army is made up of, their weapons, more weapons in here, how SSU platoons are made up. A little bit different. It's a bit different to an Axis or an Allies platoon. Especially given that, you know, commissars can join units together and all that stuff, so it's a little bit different. The SSU upgrades, which are roughly equivalent to the Axis and Allies ones. So there's that, and then we get into the platoons, which is a defense platoon. How to put together a defense platoon with the command squad, the Medvedi for that. A political platoon as well, and the Draconi, who are the Commissar squad and pretty much the command squad for those guys. And then we get into the various units that were introduced as part of this book. So you've got the Frontoviki, the Fakeli, the Ochotniki, Chinese volunteers. Then we have the Netsi, the Nabatayel, and the solo commissars, which is one of the cool things about the SSU, is that you can either take the commissars as a squad, or you can take them separately and put them into other units. So each commissar, as well as being part of a squad, as you'll see back here, you see the Draconi is the commissar squad, but you can also take them separately as individual models, and they all have their own stats. And then we go into the KV-47 Walker. So we start to find out about walkers for the SSU. And then the KV-47 Aero Walker, this guy, which can be taken with this helicopter. You can actually attach the walker to the helicopter, and you can use the helicopter to transport the walker around the battlefield. And one of the aerial walkers, Nikita, is actually really good. Possibly the best artillery walker in the game, maybe. And you also have the airborne transports as well. So the SSU were the first to get aircraft in the game, although now the Allies and the Axis are going to get aircraft as well, as of Icarus. And then you have the attack helicopter here, which infamously took a while to come out, but it's out now. So you've got all the stats for the attack helicopter. And then we go into the heroes. So we have Koshka and Grandma, which is Koshka's walker and is treated like a hero. And you also have Nikolai, who has inspired much debate on various forums and Facebook pages and so on relating to Dust, basically because of his abilities. So yeah, there's been a lot of discussion about him. Redyana, Yakov, and there's some more out there. And then we go on to SSU Force weapons. Just a list of all the weapons the SSU can use and what they can do to various units in the game. And new markers as well. You can actually download these pages from dustwarfare.com if you don't want to cut up your book. And the usual Gear Up advert on the back. So that's it. That's a look at Dust Warfare Campaign Book Zverograd. It's a decent book, well worth picking up if you play Dust Warfare. And yeah, that's it. So as always, let me know what you think in the comments for this video, and subscribe and like if you want to. Dislike the video if you didn't like it, and I will see you in the next video. So until then, see ya.